you've made healthcare a major part of your campaign, and just recently we've heard some bold assertions, renewed assertions about the Affordable Care Act from Republicans. Just recently, former President Donald Trump said, quote, "Obamacare sucks." He says he wants to replace it with a better system. Ted Cruz, your opponent, also has long campaigned on repealing the Affordable Care Act. In your mind, what would that mean for Texas?
Yeah. Let's be very clear about what this would mean for us. We're the state with the highest uninsured rate in the country. And so what we're talking about here is taking away health care from millions of Texans in a state that already has a crisis in terms of our coverage. We're talking about going back to the days when somebody with a pre-existing condition can be discriminated against. Like if you're pregnant, which my wife and I have had 2 babies here in the last 5 years, that's a pre-existing condition. You can kind of just go down the list of really terrible negative impacts for our state in particular. Here, we need to be expanding coverage and lowering costs. It's already hurting us in so many ways. We have so many folks here who don't have health insurance or who have health insurance they can't afford. It's having so many negative impacts on our property taxes, on our hospital systems. We have to reverse that, not try to take away health care.
You recently wrote an op-ed in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal about an ordinance that Lubbock County recently passed that criminalizes using county roads or leaving the state for the purpose of securing an abortion. What do you make of that ordinance? And as a U.S. Senator, would you try to pass a policy that could prevent ordinances like that nationwide? What is the solution there, do you think?
Well, I think it's deeply un-American. I think it's deeply un-Texan. This is not who we are. With the combination of our very, very strict law in this state that bans abortion in all cases, whether it's rape or incest, where we have lawyers, not doctors, determining whether or not a woman is sick enough for a pregnancy to be terminated, if we're also saying that you can't leave the state, what you're doing is you're making Texas women into prisoners in their own state, and we can't accept it. And so there is some legislation that I've signed on to with Lizzie Fletcher from Houston to protect women's right to travel interstate in this country. I never actually thought we'd have to put that into legislation. It was something I thought was understood, but maybe we will. But certainly when I'm in the United States Senate, I will vote to codify Roe v. Wade and to go back to the standard that we've had for the last 50 years. And let's be very clear about what Ted Cruz wants to do. He wants a nationwide ban on abortion. And what's happening in our state right now is a crisis. It's horrible what's happening to women in our state. We have to reverse it. There are so many impacts it's going to have for us that are negative, not just for the women in our state and for the families in our state, but also for our economy, for our university systems. We have to do something about this.
The Texas Democratic Party just recently passed unanimously a call for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. Do you agree?
Yeah. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I think this is a time for mature and solid leadership. And to me, what we have to do in terms of this conflict is continue to try and get humanitarian aid into Gaza to try and protect civilians as much as possible, but understanding this is a war of choice by Hamas. They chose this war. They are still holding over 200 hostages right now. They could release those hostages. They could lay down their arms. And so Israel has every right to defend itself, but they have to do that within the context of the laws of war. And to me, democracies like ours, whether it's the Americans or the Israelis, we are strengthened, not weakened, when we apply the standards and values of our country to the way we conduct ourselves in military conflicts. Because when we do that, we show our values. And so I think it is equally important how Israel conducts themselves in this war. But they do have a right to do that. And it's incredibly saddening to me to see obviously what's happening, but also to see these stories that are coming back from these hostages, and also to see the civilian toll in Gaza. And I hope that we can find a way forward soon that brings the conflict to an end and leaves Hamas no longer in power.
You are not calling for a ceasefire at this time?
No, I'm not.